very good afternoon to all the viewers. Welcome back to another episode of BW People HR Voices. Today we have with us Ms. Janet Paul, the Director of Human Resources, Asia Pacific, Japan and Middle East at Securonix. With over 19 years of experience in human resources, she's an expert in HR consulting, deferred compensation, team building, technical recruiting and HR policies. Prior to Securonix, Janet was working briefly with AOL India Online, Verizon Media and Oath. She also has a leadership and executive accelerated development credential. Firstly, welcome Janet. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Savi. It's a pleasure being here.
For all the viewers, today's conversation will revolve around the talent in the cybersecurity industry. So, Janet, I want to ask you firstly, we know that India is facing a shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals. So, how do you think, as a leader, how do you think organizations can address this challenge? And what are some of the skills or let's say competencies that you are looking for in the cybersecurity field from the potential candidates?
I'm happy to answer that, Savi. First of all, that we are talking about it in the month of November, which is celebrated as the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and it's 20 years. So I think this is, in terms of timing and in terms of the domain, I think it's perfect that we are talking about it. Talking about what cybersecurity has been, it's been an evolving domain over the last few years. And I mean, as much as there are threats and the vulnerabilities and all of those things that happen, there's always a cat and mouse race about who is going to come up with the best. So that way, for us, getting the right talent at the best time is really, really critical. And it is, of course, a niche and a super niche skill that we need in this domain. And there is a dearth for these skills. And we always need to find creative ways of doing it. And while we use the traditional time-tested methods, there are also things like doing a cohort with like startups and getting in those kind of key skills from the college students itself. Those kind of things have really helped to the most important thing of finding the right talent. And it's always like finding a needle in the haystack. This is a huge requirement for us in terms of where we want our candidates, our employees, and the kind of expertise that they bring in. While there is so much of efforts by the hackers to steal all the protected data with the ransomware, malware, and everything else, it is always a cat and mouse race where we need to be up the game. We need to keep upgrading ourselves and doing that. So it is very important in terms of the kind of skills and the domain expertise that people bring in. So some of the things that we would do is, apart from the time-tested, the traditional methods, we also look at cohort kind of setup where we give a startup a project. And that way we are trying to see if we are able to bring in some resources that can actually contribute and they're already aware of what they're trying to solve for. Other than that, we do things like training and development, and then we kind of get into the colleges much ahead of time itself. And then we're also promoting it as more like a career choice, because I mean, it's now getting into that mode where everybody wants to work for a cybersecurity company, and talking about what they can actually deliver, what they can bring, and how they can actually be saving the world itself is something that we kind of talk about at an initial stage itself. And in a lot of cases, what we also do is getting a full-time talent is becoming a challenge. So we bring in freelancers or consultants with short-term assignments and with the domain expertise that they have. And some of them that are those kind of experts wouldn't want to just stick to a regular day job. So they prefer doing more of these freelancing and this kind of consultant roles. And we also doing reskilling and upskilling to make sure that our current employees themselves are ahead in the game. And it's like I said, it is evolving. So there is always something new that keeps coming into the market and something that they will have to keep themselves upgraded with. So these are certain things that we are doing. And in terms of the skills, what we are looking for is professionals with threat intelligence and people that have security assessment and testing background. We look for folks that have security compliance, knowledge around that, especially the GDPR and things like that. And there are a lot of such things that have been in the market as well. There are organizations that kind of run this as a short-term program itself. And with a lot of these changes coming in, I think what we also do is handpick people from those kind of institutes that run these kind of programs, with cloud security coming in, network security, and this incident and access management. Those are things that we kind of focus on in terms of the skills that we look at. One main area that it is going to be, which is already like much ahead, is machine learning and AI. I think that is something that most of the cybersecurity companies are going to be focusing on, and that's going to be a hot skill apart from the soft skills and other technologies that guys need to be updated with.
Right. I agree with you. You spoke about the compliance part. We'll come back to this in the later part of the conversation. But you also mentioned upskilling and how the industry is evolving every day. I agree to that. Technology such as generative AI, Meta is coming into the space. So continuous learning and development is important. So what could be some of the strategies or some, let's say, training programs that could be employed in order to continuously upskill them in the emerging technologies that are coming up in this landscape?
So everyone is learning together at the same time. It's not like anyone has done it all and
Right.
seen it all. So most of the times it's in terms of like working with the universities itself. I think that's where we are more focused. So this we recently introduced a batch of interns. We've always done internship program, but this time much more in a structured way. And I think that's really brought out a lot of results for us, to the extent that these guys are already contributing to the real world scenarios itself. And with the kind of enthusiasm that they bring in, I think that really helps for us to kind of get ahead of where we wanted them to deliver. And apart from that, I think we've also been engaging with some of the institutions to make sure that they add a couple of curriculums that is going to help us when we bring in students from there, that they have that background already. So we've been getting them into adding that as a part of their curriculum. We also allow some of our employees to go and do guest lectures and workshops. So that way they discuss real-time problems, and there are solutions that they kind of discuss both ways. So like I said, everyone is learning, not like anyone is an expert at what they are. So it's more that way that we learn. We do a lot of mentorship programs as well. And I think what has also helped is in terms of giving in a research project. So with there are a lot of forums that are there. So post them thing about what is the concern, and then they together come back and discuss and come up with solutions. I think these are things that have worked. And for organizations as such, I think continuous learning and feedback has been very essential in terms of where and how the whole the domain itself as such is evolving and moving. I think that is really helping. Doing a lot of certification and training programs, that has helped. These are certain things that I think has come in terms of like how we've been able to develop at that stage itself.
So it's great to see that how Securonix is actually collaborating with educational institutions and industry associations to bridge this skills gap in this industry. But what about retaining these employees? They're in high demand all over the globe. People from other countries also want the Indian talent. But what could be some of the retention strategies, according to you, to retain this talent into the organization?
So earlier it used to be only compensation, but now I'd say more than compensation, it's also the opportunities that they have, the learning and the development that they have, the R&D space that they can invest in, and how much of contribution they're able to do there. I think a couple of things that we focus on is on the learning and development and giving them those R&D opportunities, along with the compensation. That I think is also very critical. And with the dearth of resources that we have, I think the market is still in that hype for these kind of skills. And like you rightly said, I think one of the things has always been wanting to go to a different country and do things. So we do internal movement. Not everybody gets that opportunity, but again, if they have been around for some time based on their performance and things like that, that's something that is a part of their career growth as well. And we've done a lot of internal movements that way to our different locations that we have in the US, Singapore, Middle East, and that has helped. And apart from that, I think with COVID having taught us the whole work from home and the flexibility, all of that has also helped, I think, in terms of retaining. While we are on that mode of return to office, we are on a hybrid. And again, we're very flexible in terms of how we've expected people to come back. And a lot of thing also comes back to about the autonomy and the responsibility that each of them are given. And like I spoke about the interns previously, even at their level, they like to have some bit of an autonomy and that holding that responsibility. I think those are things that has actually helped. And
Right.
the market is not too helpful in terms of like the search that we always have fighting for resources. But yeah, with what we've been able to do in terms of retention has been quite significant.
Great, but you spoke about a distributed workforce. How difficult is it to manage a distributed workforce, and what kind of difference have you seen within people working from office and with people working from home? Is there a difference in their performances? Is there a difference in the training that they're getting in this field?
I think COVID has taught us life. This is not what we thought when we were going to go into that mode of working from home. I personally never thought that I could survive working from home, because I always thought that working from the office was the way that you could, the communication and all that helps. But over a period of time, while we learned that that is something that helped, I also strongly believe that working in the office setup has also brought in a lot more, because if working from home is just restricted to their team and just that particular, maybe their stand-up calls, they discuss issues and within themselves they resolve it. What I'm seeing now, when people get back to the office, first they're meeting each other maybe after 3 years. They've not even seen each other for a long time, or they've never met them. They're meeting them for the first time. And then when there is an issue that is being discussed with one team and somebody else hears it, they contribute. So it's learning both the ways. It's not just restricted to their job profile or what they do. So that way, I feel that there is a lot of change that it's bringing in. And I think at the end of it, we are social animals. That working from the office, being around people, I think makes that much of a difference. And just that sitting in front of your laptop, as much as you sit on Zoom calls, not everybody is on a video. So it's talking to a black screen, and kind of there's too many restrictions that way. But in terms of learning and the opportunities, there was never a gap because somebody was in the office or out of the office. At both levels, it was the initiative that an individual took. It is their willingness to want to learn. So even during this whole period, we've had teams set up learning programs where somebody has learned something on their own and they will do a knowledge sharing session. So they would take time out every week to come and do a presentation. And there has been a lot of learning throughout. But the interactions and the in-person kind of makes a lot more difference.
Right. It builds on the team cohesion, rightly said. Now we'll come back to the compliance part of it. We were talking about the data protection laws and how the regulations in the cybersecurity field is evolving every day. How can HR leaders navigate and ensure compliance when they are hiring or managing the cybersecurity talent? What are your views on this?
So compliance is very, very critical, especially when it is a cybersecurity company. For us, the main thing would be this background verification that we do. That is highly critical, because not just for us, but also for the customers that we work with. There are a lot of them who want us to give the employees clearance document to the customer. And also, I think one of the things that as organizations we can look as are the ISO standards and also the GDPR policies, and that is also evolving. There is so much of changes from what it was to what it is. So one of the things, or like a couple of things that we as HR leaders need to do is, I think, stay informed, keep ourselves up to date with what is the requirement, and have regular consultations with the legal team. I think they are experts and they know they would be able to advise us in terms of what is the interpretation of some of these, and not just take it by the word. Compliance trainings are very important. We do regular compliance trainings for our employees, and it's mandatory. Only they'll need to surely go and complete that and sign off. There's a time period by which they need to complete it. I spoke about the background verifications. That is very, very important for us. And in terms of like the privacy policies, we make sure that that is clearly communicated and people have refreshers on those policies that they have. We also do regular access controls. We keep monitoring our access controls, and also working with third-party vendors, even if it is for our facilities related or whatever. We have that regular check and balance with their compliance, how they are involved as well. Main thing that we also do is these regular meetings that we have with people in the same fraternity. I think there's a lot of learning and there's a lot of updates that we get through those kind of the communities that we are a part of, and making sure that we are aligned if there's anything that is some that we're missing. And those are things that we do as well, just to keep ourselves updated with whatever is the latest trends that's coming up.
Right. Especially when now there's a hefty fine of up to 250 crores recently that the act was passed, Digital Protection, Consumer Data Protection Law. right? So compliance has to be in place now for organizations. So Janet, lastly, I want to ask you, what could be some of the emerging trends when you foresee the future in the field of cybersecurity talent management in India?
So it's not one solution fits all. It's something that we'll have to be creative. And in terms of like the trends, one of the things that we are going to see is the demand for the professionals. That's always going to be a fight, and we'll have to come up with innovative ways of how we are attracting talent, retaining them. That's going to be one of it. And I think in the skill sets that is required, I think in terms of the expertise that we will be looking at, cloud security, IoT, AI, and machine learning that we spoke about. Then specific to cybersecurity in terms of the threat detection, secure software development. I think these are some of the skills that will be in demand, and that's something that is going to be coming up. With this, there would be a need of a lot of certifications, training programs, and also ways in which we should be able to kind of motivate the employees to kind of get them into it. While it is an individual's choice, there's also ways and means in which the company needs to kind of get them into taking that up seriously. What would also be important is that I would say that cybersecurity is going to be looked up as one of the key things in all spaces, wherever, in everywhere. Our ecosystem is going to have everything around it is going to be around the cybersecurity. So I think in terms of having ethical people doing all of these in the hacking, and then coming up with all of these protections, I think that is going to be important. So these are some of the things that I feel that are going to be a sudden change to what it is. It is in that mode already, but this is where it is going to go to a different level.
Thank you, Janet. So most of our viewers, they're HR professionals, employers, employees. What would be your last piece of advice to them?
I think for one of the main things would be, as HR, my advice, irrespective of being in a cybersecurity space, would be human. Because I think some of us miss the human part of being a human resource person. Everyone is in that race. So I think it's more about being more empathetical and understanding what it is. And like I said, everyone is learning. So in terms of even what or how people deliver, I think giving them that space, the learning curve is going to be very important. And I think for us as individuals, stay ahead of what it is, keep ourselves updated with the latest in terms of what our domain kind of work changes. And even in terms of, like we spoke about, the compliance and things like that, I think that's going to be very critical for us. So just keep ourselves upgraded, and up to date is going to be relevant.
Thank you so much, Janet, for joining us today and being here with us today. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.